The breaking point, the massive crystalline dome of the Grand Federation Assembly, stretched high above the gathered representatives, its surface shimmering with the light of distant stars. Captain Alina Rodriguez walked through the main entrance with measured steps, her dark blue uniform bearing the simple insignia of Earth's diplomatic corps. Behind her, Dr. Marcus Chen carried a sealed briefcase containing humanity's latest technological achievements, ready to share them with the galactic community as they had done for the past 5 years. The assembly hall was a marvel of engineering, with gravity fields adjusted for each species' comfort zones. Floating platforms accommodated the gas-breathing Netherians, while heated stone slabs provided warmth for the cold-blooded Zethkari. Elena had grown used to this sight over her 3 years as humanity's primary representative, but today something felt different. The usual friendly nods from allied species were replaced by cold stares and whispered conversations. Elena took her place at the human delegation platform, positioned in what the Federation called the Junior Members section. Despite humanity's contributions to galactic society, they were still considered newcomers after only 50 years of membership. Dr. Chen sat beside her, his weathered face showing concern as he observed the hostile atmosphere surrounding them. The session began with High Counselor Zethkari rising from the central dais. The reptilian being's scales shifted from deep green to an aggressive red as he spoke, his voice amplified by translation matrices that converted his hissing speech into understandable words for all species present. Zethkari had never liked humans, viewing them as dangerously unpredictable despite their peaceful contributions to the Federation. Esteemed Delegate Zethkari announced, his forked tongue flicking between words, "We gather today to address a growing concern that threatens the stability of our great Federation. The human species, while showing promise in certain technological areas, has begun to exceed acceptable parameters of independence and innovation." Alina felt her heart rate increase, but she maintained her diplomatic composure. She had expected political maneuvering, but the formal tone suggested something far more serious than routine bureaucracy. Veltar, the insectoid representative from the hive worlds, clicked her mandibles in agreement as she stood. Her compound eyes reflected the assembly's lights like tiny mirrors as she spoke in the characteristic buzzing tone of her species. Human colonies have grown beyond their designated expansion zones. Their technological development proceeds without proper oversight. Most concerning, they have begun sharing advanced knowledge with species outside Federation control. Dr. Chen leaned forward slightly, recognizing the accusation. 3 months ago, humanity had provided medical nanobots to the independent Corvani Republic, saving millions of lives during a plague outbreak. The Federation had condemned this action as unauthorized technological transfer, but Alina had defended it as a humanitarian necessity. The accusations continued for 2 hours. Speaker after speaker rose to condemn humanity's reckless expansion and dangerous innovations. Alina listened with growing understanding that this was not a debate but a predetermined judgment. The Federation's older species had decided that humans were becoming too successful, too independent, and too willing to act according to their conscience rather than bureaucratic protocols. When Alina was finally permitted to speak, she stood with dignity befitting her position. "Honored delegates," she began, her voice carrying across the vast chamber humanity has never acted against. Federation interests. Every innovation we have developed has been shared freely. Every crisis we have helped resolve has strengthened our common bonds. We ask only for the same respect and autonomy granted to all member species. Zethgari's scales deepened to dark crimson. The Federation Council has reviewed extensive evidence of human activities. Your species displays concerning tendencies toward independent action and technological hoarding. Therefore, this assembly will vote on Resolution 847C, placing all human colonies under direct Federation oversight and transferring all advanced human technologies to common Federation control. The vote was swift and decisive. Of the 47 species represented, 39 voted in favor of the resolution. Only 6 species voted against it, with 2 abstentions. Alina watched the display board show the crushing defeat, each green. Light representing another species that viewed humanity as a threat to be controlled rather than an ally to be respected, as the assembly dissolved into celebratory conversations among the majority delegates. Alina activated a small communication device hidden in her uniform. The quantum-encrypted signal reached Earth instantly, despite the vast distances involved. Admiral Sarah Blake's holographic image appeared briefly, visible only to Alina through specialized contact lenses. "Execute Protocol, Omega," Alina said. Quietly, her words lost in the ambient noise of the assembly hall. Admiral Blake nodded once before the connection terminated. Dr. Chen gathered his materials with deliberate calm, his scientific mind already calculating the implications of what had just occurred. As they prepared to leave, Veltar approached their platform with what might have been considered a friendly gesture among her species. "Do not despair," the insectoid delegate buzzed softly. "The Federation will help humanity reach its proper potential under guidance. Your innovations will benefit all species equally." Alina smiled politely. "We appreciate the Federation's concern for our development. I'm sure the transition will be very educational for everyone involved." 3 days after the vote, the real work began, in a secure bunker beneath the Sahara Desert on Earth. Admiral Sarah Blake stood before a holographic display showing every human settlement in Federation space. The display showed 127 colonies, 43 research stations, 89 industrial complexes, and thousands of smaller installations spread across 42 star systems. Admiral Blake was a veteran of humanity's early space exploration efforts, her silver hair and weathered face telling the story of decades spent pushing the boundaries of human achievement. She had commanded the first successful faster-than-light missions and overseen the establishment of humanity's first interstellar colonies. Now, she faced the most ambitious operation in human history. "Status report," she commanded, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to making decisions that affected millions of lives. Commander Jake Morrison stepped forward, his massive frame making even the spacious command center seem smaller. Morrison had grown up on Kepler 438b, one of humanity's most successful agricultural colonies, and understood better than most what they were asking people to sacrifice. "All Phase 1 objectives are complete," Morrison reported. "Colony administrators have briefed their populations under the cover of emergency preparedness drills. Critical infrastructure is being systematically documented and prepared for rapid disassembly. Advanced manufacturing equipment is being retrofitted for quick removal." Dr. Chen's voice joined the conversation through communication links from Federation space, where he remained to maintain the appearance of normalcy. "The quantum drive manufacturing facilities on New Geneva are being carefully dismantled. We've already removed the core components from 17 major installations. The Federation oversight teams won't arrive for another 6 weeks, which gives us sufficient time to complete the operation. The quantum drives were humanity's most significant contribution to galactic technology. The revolutionary propulsion system had reduced interstellar travel times by 70% and opened previously unreachable systems to exploration and colonization. Every major trade route in Federation space now depended on human-built quantum drives. But the aliens had convinced themselves that they could simply take the technology and continue operating it without human expertise. Admiral Blake studied population movement schedules on her display. What about civilian cooperation? Morrison's expression softened slightly. Better than we hoped. When people understand that the choice is between voluntary relocation and living under alien oversight, most choose relocation. The colonial governors have done excellent work explaining the situation without causing panic. The truth was more complex than Morrison's summary suggested. Across human space, families were making heartbreaking decisions. Farmers were abandoning crops they had spent years perfecting. Scientists were packing research that represented decades of careful work. Engineers were dismantling infrastructure they had built with their own hands. But they were doing it willingly, understanding that the alternative was serving as subjects in an alien empire that viewed them as dangerous children, requiring constant supervision. On New Geneva, the crown jewel of human industrial development, factory supervisor Maria Santos watched as her workers carefully removed quantum field generators from their housing units. Each generator represented months of precision manufacturing and years of research and development. The irony was not lost on her that the aliens who wanted to steal this technology had never bothered to understand how it actually worked. Careful. With that stabilizer array, she called out to a team of technicians. If the field alignment shifts by more than 0.01 degrees, the entire unit becomes scrap metal. The technician, a young man named David Park, looked up from his work. Supervisor Santos, what happens to the colonies after we leave? I mean, the atmospheric processes, the fusion reactors, the water treatment systems. Maria considered her. Answer carefully. The atmospheric processes maintained breathable air on 17 different worlds. The fusion reactors provided power to billions of alien citizens. The water treatment systems supplied clean drinking water to dozens of species. All of these systems required regular maintenance and occasional replacement of components that only humans knew how to manufacture. That's not our concern anymore, David, she said finally. The Federation has decided they can manage these systems without us. I'm sure they know what they're doing. The evacuation proceeded with remarkable efficiency. Humanity's military, while smaller than most Federation species, was built around rapid deployment and adaptive tactics. Transport ships designed for colony supply runs were quickly converted to carry evacuating populations. Military vessels provided escort protection and coordinated movement through Federation space without arousing suspicion. Captain Alina Rodriguez remained at the Federation capital, attending daily briefings and maintaining the pretense that humanity was preparing to comply with the oversight resolution. She met with Federation bureaucrats, who explained how human colonies would be administered and which technologies would be transferred to alien control. Through it all, she smiled politely and asked detailed questions that reinforced the aliens' belief that humans were cooperating with their demands. Meanwhile, Dr. Chen traveled between human installations, officially conducting compliance assessments for the incoming Federation overseers. In reality, he was coordinating the final phase of the evacuation and ensuring that no critical technology remained behind. The plan was audacious in its scope and flawless in its execution. Within 6 weeks, every human citizen in Federation space would be gone. Every piece of advanced technology would be removed or rendered inoperable. Every system that depended on human expertise would be left without the knowledge needed to maintain it. But the aliens would not discover this until it was far too late to prevent it. As Alina prepared for what would be her final address to the Federation Assembly, she received a message from Admiral Blake confirming that 93% of the evacuation was complete. Human ships were already departing for destinations beyond Federation space, carrying with them the people and knowledge that would build humanity's independent future. The Federation had made a critical error in judgment. They had assumed that humans, like most species, would accept subjugation rather than risk the unknown. They had failed to understand that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their military capability, but their absolute refusal to surrender their freedom to anyone who demanded it. In 72 hours, the aliens would learn the price of that miscalculation. The Great Exodus, the Federation. Assembly Hall buzzed with anticipation as delegates gathered for what they believed would be humanity's formal acceptance of their new status as a supervised species. High Counselor Zethkari's scales displayed a satisfied golden hue as he reviewed reports from various committee chairpersons. Federation oversight teams were scheduled to arrive at human colonies within the week, and alien scientists were already preparing to study humanity's advanced technologies. Captain Alina Rodriguez entered the hall for the final time, her bearing as composed and professional as ever. She carried no briefcase today, no datapads filled with proposals or technical specifications. Behind her, Dr. Marcus Chen walked with the quiet confidence of a man who knew that history was about to vindicate every difficult decision they had made. Alina took her place at the human delegation platform and activated the main display system. Instead of the usual diplomatic presentations, the screen showed a real-time map of Federation space with hundreds of blinking lights representing human installations. Every delegate in the assembly could see the vast network of colonies, research stations, and industrial facilities that humanity had built over 5 decades of membership in the Federation. Honored delegates, Alina began, her voice carrying clearly through the translation matrices. I stand before you today to deliver humanity's response to Resolution 847C. Zethkari leaned forward on his platform, expecting to hear humanity's formal submission to Federation oversight. Around the assembly hall, alien representatives prepared to congratulate themselves on successfully containing the dangerous human expansion. After careful consideration, Alina continued, humanity has decided to withdraw completely from the Galactic Federation, effective immediately. The hall erupted in confused chatter. Veltar's compound eyes focused intently on Alina as she tried to process what she had just heard. Several delegates activated their translation devices, certain they had misunderstood the human representative's words. Alina waited for the noise to subside before continuing. As I speak, the last human ships are departing Federation space. Every human citizen, every piece of human technology, and every human installation is being removed from territories under Federation control. On the main display, the lights representing human settlements began changing from blue to red, then to black as they went offline. Colony after colony, research station after research station, the vast network of human presence in Federation space was systematically disappearing. Zethkari rose from his seat, his scales shifting to an alarmed orange color. This is impossible. You cannot simply abandon established colonies. The economic disruption alone would destabilize entire sectors. Dr. Chen stood and activated his own communication device. "Perhaps you would like to verify our claims," he said calmly. "I suggest checking the status of the quantum drive manufacturing facility on New Geneva." Veltar was already accessing her communication networks, her multiple limbs moving rapidly across control surfaces as she contacted Hive-World intelligence operatives in human space. Within moments, reports began flooding in from across the galaxy. "The New Geneva facility is empty," announced the delegate from the Corvini systems, his voice tight with disbelief. "The entire complex has been stripped. Not just the equipment. The humans removed the quantum field generators, the computer cores, even the support infrastructure." More reports arrived in rapid succession. The agricultural colonies that supplied food to a dozen alien worlds had been abandoned, their atmospheric processes shut down and removed. The medical research stations that had been developing cures for various alien diseases had been evacuated, their advanced laboratory equipment gone. The industrial facilities that manufactured everything from starship components to household goods had been systematically dismantled. Admiral Sarah Blake's image appeared on the main display via quantum communication link. Her grey uniform bore the insignia of the newly formed Human Independence Fleet, an organization that officially had not existed until this moment. "Federation representatives," Admiral Blake announced, "Operation Silent Departure has been completed successfully. All human personnel have been evacuated from Federation space. All advanced human technology has been removed or rendered inoperable. Humanity hereby terminates all treaties, agreements, and obligations with the Galactic Federation." The assembly hall descended into chaos. Emergency communication systems activated as delegates frantically contacted their home governments. The implications of humanity's withdrawal were becoming clear, and they were far more severe than anyone had anticipated. On the agricultural world of Resivon, the Zethkari colonial administrator stood in what had been the central control room for the planet's atmospheric processing system. The facility was empty except for basic structural elements. The fusion reactors that had provided power were gone, their spaces marked only by disconnected power couplings and cooling systems. The atmospheric processes that had maintained breathable air for the planet's 40 million inhabitants had been completely removed. "How long do we have?" the administrator asked his chief engineer. The engineer consulted a portable atmospheric scanner. "Without the processing stations, the planet will revert to its natural atmosphere within 18 days. The air will become toxic to our species within a week." Similar conversations were taking place across Federation space, the Veltar Hive. Worlds discovered that their quantum communication networks were failing as human-maintained relay stations went offline. The Corvini systems faced potential famine as the agricultural worlds that had fed their populations for 20 years stood empty and abandoned. But the most devastating realization came when Federation engineers attempted to operate the quantum drives that powered their interstellar transportation network. Without human technicians to maintain the complex field alignments and quantum resonance patterns, the drives began failing one by one. Within days, the trade routes that connected the Federation's member worlds were impassable. High Counselor Zethkari stood before an emergency session of the Federation Council, his scales a dark, troubled purple. Around him, representatives from dozens of species demanded answers and solutions to the crisis that was unfolding across their territories. "The humans have committed an act of unprecedented sabotage," Zethkari declared. "They have deliberately crippled Federation infrastructure to coerce us into submission." Veltar's response was sharp and bitter. We sabotaged ourselves. We drove away the species that our entire economy had become dependent upon. We tried to steal their innovations instead of earning their cooperation. The delegate from the Corvini Republic, whose species had maintained friendly relations with humanity throughout their Federation membership, spoke with barely contained anger. My worlds are facing starvation because we voted to support human subjugation instead of human partnership. We have made the greatest strategic error in galactic history. As Federation space descended into chaos, humanity was implementing the second phase of their independence plan, beyond the Outer Rim territories, in star systems that Federation exploration had deemed unsuitable for colonization. Human colony. Ships were establishing new settlements with technology far more advanced than anything they had shared with their former allies. Dr. Chen stood on the observation deck of the colony, ship New Earth, watching as automated construction systems assembled the first buildings of what would become humanity's new capital world. The planet below was harsh and demanding, with extreme weather patterns and unusual atmospheric composition, but human terraforming technology could transform it into a garden world within a decade. Commander Jake Morrison approached, carrying a datapad showing status reports from dozens of other colony expeditions. All settlements are reporting successful planetfall, he reported. The agricultural colonies have identified suitable worlds and begun preliminary soil preparation. The industrial groups have located asteroid fields rich in rare metals. The research divisions have found 3 systems with unique properties that could advance our understanding of quantum physics. Dr. Chen nodded with satisfaction, and the Federation response. Morrison's expression grew grimmer. 17 border conflicts have erupted between member species. The Zethkari and Veltar are mobilizing military fleets against each other over resource distribution. The quantum communication network has collapsed in 4 major sectors. Economic projections show complete systemic failure within 6 months. Captain Alina Rodriguez joined them on the observation deck, having just completed her final diplomatic mission. The Federation has formally classified humanity as a hostile species and banned all contact with human territories, she reported. They're calling it the Great Betrayal. Dr. Chen smiled grimly. They still don't understand. We didn't betray them. We revealed the truth. Their entire civilization was built on taking advantage of others. When those others refused to be taken advantage of, the system collapsed. The long-term consequences of humanity's exodus exceeded even their own projections. Within 18 months, the Galactic Federation fragmented into competing factions as member species fought over the remaining resources. The technological stagnation that followed set alien development back by decades, as they had grown dependent on human innovation rather than developing their own capabilities. Meanwhile, humanity flourished in their independence, free from federation, restrictions and bureaucracy. Human scientists and engineers made breakthrough discoveries at an unprecedented pace. New propulsion technologies that made quantum drives seem primitive. Medical advances that extended human lifespans and eliminated genetic diseases. Terraforming techniques that could transform any planet into a paradise. 3 years after the exodus, Admiral Blake stood in the command center of humanity's newest space station, positioned at the edge of their expanding territory. The station served as both a defensive outpost and a diplomatic facility, as several alien species had approached humanity seeking alliance and technological cooperation. "Ma'am," reported her communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from Federation space. It's High Counselor Zethkari requesting negotiations." Admiral Blake considered the request. Intelligence reports showed that the Federation was facing complete collapse, with member worlds abandoning the alliance in favor of independent development or smaller regional partnerships. The Zethkari homeworld was experiencing technological failures that threatened their basic infrastructure. "Transmit our standard response," Blake instructed. "Humanity is willing to negotiate with individual species on the basis of mutual respect, an equitable exchange. We do not recognize the authority of the Galactic Federation or any organization that claims the right to govern other species without their consent." The communications officer nodded and transmitted the message. It was the same response humanity gave to all Federation contact attempts: an offer of partnership for those willing to abandon their imperial ambitions, and complete silence for those who still believed in subjugating others on the new Earth. Colony, now a thriving world with gleaming cities and vast agricultural zones. Elena Rodriguez served as humanity's first president of Independent Worlds. She often stood in her office, looking out at the bustling spaceport where ships from a dozen friendly alien species came to trade and exchange knowledge. These aliens were different from the Federation species. They were smaller civilizations that had also chosen independence over imperial membership. They offered genuine partnership and mutual benefit rather than demanding submission and tribute. With humanity's help, they were developing their own advanced technologies and expanding their own territories. Dr. Chen, now elderly but still active as humanity's chief science advisor, joined Alina at the window. "Do you ever regret what we did?" he asked. Alina watched as a ship from the Andorian Republic, humanity's newest ally, departed for its home system carrying medical technology that would save millions of lives. "The Federation taught us an important lesson," she replied. "Freedom is not something others can give you. It's something you must be willing to take, regardless of the cost." The human exodus had been costly. Families had been separated from ancestral homes. Decades of work had been abandoned. The comfortable security of Federation membership had been traded for the uncertainty of independence. But in making that choice, humanity had proven something fundamental about their species. They would rather face the unknown as free people than accept comfort as willing slaves. And in the end, that choice had made all the difference. The galaxy was larger now, with room for both the failing Federation and the rising human alliance. The future belonged to those who were willing to seize it with their own hands, and humanity had shown that they would never hesitate to do exactly that. As Alina watched the stars through her office window, she knew that humanity's greatest adventures still lay ahead. They had chosen their own path among the stars, and that path led toward a future brighter than anything they could have achieved under alien oversight. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again.